Hello, welcome to 10 at 10. My name is Michael Ramage. I'm the director of the Cyber Education Research Center here at Murray State University, and welcome back to 10 at 10. 10 at 10 is brought to you through a partnership between Murray State University, Grow West, the Technology Council of West Kentucky, KY Innovation, and local partners Sprocket Innovation in Paducah and the Kentucky Innovation Station in Madisonville. Episode 207. This is the last episode of the year, and I thought that it would be a good idea to actually take a look back. We talked about some of the things that have happened, the predictions for next year, but just look at some of the big stories from the year and what is it that we can learn from them, because there's actually quite a bit that we can learn from them. So that's what I thought we would look at today. And I am using CSO magazine and their top stories. I'm not going to have time to go through all of them, but I thought I would hit a few of them that at least I thought were of note. The first one happened, I think it actually occurred back in February. Change Healthcare had a data breach. It affects 100 million. I think the number I read was 112 million users. So let me describe what happened. As I understand it, some threat actors broke into the system. They stole 112 million users worth of information. Then they hit Change Healthcare with a data breach. I'm sorry, with ransomware. So it wasn't just a data breach; it was also ransomware attack. From what I've read, the reason it happened was because they don't use, or they didn't use, multi-factor authentication. Something that you have heard me preaching on for 3 years on this show. They did not use multi-factor authentication, and because of that, not only did 112 million people have information stolen, but there was a ransomware attack which cost people not able to get uh, to use their insurance. What that really meant was that if they were going to get prescription drugs, they had to pay for it out of pocket because their systems were down. There was a lot of issues that came as a result of this, and ultimately it was because they weren't using multi-factor authentication. As noted on this article, it was the largest ever reported breach to the portal that's managed by federal regulators. So that was a major one. Moral to that story: first of all, when it's talking about that much money and that much impact, it's going to be hard to stop them. But the catch is they didn't have to use some sophisticated attack. It was all because they didn't use multi-factor authentication, and that's um, just basic blocking and tackling. We got to be able to do that. Another one: blue screen of death strikes crowd strike servers. That's a lot of crowd strikes in that title. Um, this isn't really necessarily a cyber attack, but it has the same result. This wasn't a malicious actor, at least I don't think it was. I didn't read that it was. Essentially, CrowdStrike, which is a server, I'm sorry, a security software package that runs on computers, workstations, and servers, and basically what happened here was that um, CrowdStrike had a software update, and they pushed out a software update. Well, what happened when they pushed it out, it had some side effects that they weren't expecting. The net result was a bunch of computers got what's called the blue screen of death, which basically means they no longer worked. The estimated 8.5 million computers got the blue screen of death. It impacted a lot of industries, a lot of IT people, a lot of you watching this right now probably had to work around the clock getting computers back up and operating. Where the news really picked it up was that a lot of airlines also use CrowdStrike to monitor their networks, and they were down. So that was a major issue. That one is the lesson to me on the CrowdStrike issue is: one, CrowdStrike needs to learn how to better test their updates. Microsoft learned that maybe these security software companies don't necessarily need kernel access, which is the highest level of access that software could have to an operating system. And users just need to be aware that when you're updating, that you're dependent on these software companies. If you don't test it ahead of time, you're dependent on how good they are. Um, Snowflake. Snowflake is a cloud hosting company that you probably, unless you really pay attention to what I say on here, or to the security news media, you probably don't know what Snowflake is. You probably have never heard of Snowflake, but Snowflake had a breach. Um, they had credentials stolen, and as a result of that, some major organizations had data breaches. AT&T and Ticketmaster are the two big ones. If you heard about AT&T and Ticketmaster having a data breach, well, it really wasn't their it what it was their fault, but it comes back to Snowflake. Snowflake was the vendor, the cloud company that they were using, and it's because there were some credentials that were stolen, and because they were all on the same system, it had a ripple effect, and they were able to get into other systems as well. If you'll notice, Snowflake is now considering making multi-factor authentication mandatory to access its systems. It should have been already. That Go back to the first one that we talked about. It should have been already. Multi-factor authentication should be required on every system that you can possibly have it on. Period. No questions asked. That's the way that it should be. Um, Now, I'm highlighting this one because this is a bigger issue. North Korean fake IT workers up the ante in targeting tech firms. Now, in 2024, we saw a company that had a deep fake video that convinced their CFO to transfer millions of dollars, because they had a video call and the CEO said, do it. And they believed them. Yes, that's a problem. AI is making things a lot easier for us to have, uh, fake audio and video. But let me take it a step further. We're now doing a lot of remote work. And even me right now, how do you know that this is really me? How do you know that the video you're watching is me? Okay, you ask questions. Well, um, I can program AI to immediately respond to questions. Anyway, the long and short of it is that some of these remote workers that we think that we're hiring are not actually the workers that we think. They're actually North Korean fake IT workers. AI is making it possible for us to do so many different great things, good things, horrible things, bad things, and it goes all across the board. So we have to be very careful, and this is an example of that. So, as we go into 2025, AI is really going to continue to be an issue that we have to watch out for. And the last story that I can't not talk about because it was um, pretty large. Um, in early 2024, National Public Data had a breach, which is an online background check fraud prevention service. Um, 200 or 2.9 billion records, 170 million people in the US, UK, Canada had were victims of a data breach. Um, Full names, social security numbers, mailing addresses, email addresses, phone numbers, um, all of this was stolen. And and it was leaked onto the dark web. We all have to have background searches for something or another. I have it to volunteer at church, at school, for my job. There's things that we just trust that people are going to do what they need to do, and the reality is that we can't trust blindly. I recommend that you have a credit monitoring service no matter what. uh, if you've been the victim or you don't know that you've been the victim, that you still have it monitoring, because the reality is that everybody is going to end up being the victim at some point or another. Anyway, so we are over time. Thank you for watching. I hope you found some of these stories interesting. If you want to learn more about the stories, please reach out. I'm happy to talk more about it, because these stories are really interesting, and there's a lot that we can learn from them, that we need to learn from them, so that we don't repeat the same errors in the future. You actually saw two different articles that the impact was because multi-factor authentication. We didn't learn from it, and we need to do that. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your 2024, and I will see you next year in 2025. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.